Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Gal Swisa Cohen, and on today's episode of the Israeli Bond on hmTv, my special guest, David Black, will join me for the third episode in a row for a conversation about the situation today of Jewish people in the diaspora, the rise of antisemitism, and all the events that occurred after October 7th. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to our first two episodes, I urge you to go now and listen to us talking about the Center for Israel and about everything that David did
with other people.
With other people. Yeah, this is good. So I'm gonna dive right into the horrific event of October 7th. So just to give a background, we were also here. It was only 2 months into our shlichut. We just arrived from Israel, didn't really know anyone. And then October 7th happened. For us, it was a shock, like everyone else, but we haven't known anything about the JCC, about Long Island. Back at the time, we were super new. So I want you maybe to tell me now about the first days right after October 7th. First, where did it get you when you first heard about that? And if you can return with me to the first moments.
I think that I can't remember even where I was, but I remember obviously the news started coming in, and it was just pure shock. It was shock, and obviously the first thing that you want to do is to find out that everybody that you know there is safe or not safe, and what's going on and what they're feeling. I was also, we never mentioned it in the other programs, but since COVID, all of the New York JCC execs get together every Wednesday. Actually, probably since before that, but every Wednesday, we're on a Zoom together. And we talk about what we're facing as execs, what issues we can help each other with. And we formed a community of our own. And so we were reeling from the news. But we also, there were a group of us that also felt very connected to Israel for a wide variety of reasons. Some of the execs were born in Israel, some have children in Israel. And I think within the first 2 weeks or so, I put out a note that said, would anybody feel comfortable taking a trip and going over? And I had...
Right after October 7th, this is what you thought about? If people want to have a trip to Israel?
Right, figuring out two things. What does Israel need so that we're not getting in the way? And two, showing that there is immediate solidarity and support. And 10 hands went up.
Wow.
And we scheduled a trip for November because it just took a couple of weeks of planning with JCC Global and Leah Garber, who's with the JCCA, who created a trip with us. And I think that we had, I want to say 12 or 14 people that went. They took us into the Gaza envelope. They took us, what we desired was we did not want to be entertained. We wanted to show through media or through where we were showing up that there were millions of people that are behind Israel. They're not hearing about it, but they need to know that it exists. And that was our purpose and that was our mission. So that's what we did. And interestingly enough, there was a guy on that trip that is now the executive director of Sid Jacobs and JCC.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Michael Schlank was on the trip, along with Danielle from Common Point and Leonard from Brooklyn and Orit from Staten Island. I mean, it was a wide variety of individuals that came, and all of them there were there for one mission, and that was both support, solidarity, and understanding what the needs were so they can come back to their communities and either start to raise dollars or start to raise awareness.
So I want to ask you two questions. First, how did you did the support part? I mean, you said that you want to show Israel that there are millions of people that support them. How did you did that? And also, second question, what needs did you identify?
So one was the desire to get in front of media, which we did on one or two occasions. Two is we went from the south also to the north, and we understood how many communities did not have appropriate shelters, how many needs there were in smaller communities. Israel was reeling from shock, and beyond what was taking place in the Gaza envelope was all of these missiles that were coming over. The north was threatened. Iran was threatening.
You were there while it was...
Sure. So it was literally identifying who the contacts are, and then how do we supply either needed funds or letting UJA know what it is that we saw, which we also did. So several of these communities created Israel emergency funds, including ours, and we worked with the Israeli community that we know, but also the community that we saw, in order to say, here's what it is that we want these funds to go for. Because the large funds like UJA were putting massive amounts of money in both infrastructure and helping Israel with its largest problems, but then the smaller communities would be forgotten. So it's small little things that we did, but where we were able to get either into the press or into the media, at least gave us the ability to give the message that you're not alone. And no tourists were coming at the time. So when anybody saw us from any community, they simply said thank you. It mattered.
So actually, believe it or not, I didn't remember that. I didn't remember this delegation. I was so shocked also here and so new. But I must say that you're right. UJA and all like this big Jewish organization gave a lot of money to Israel, to all different causes, but it is the emergency fund of C. Jacobs Sons JCC that I had the privilege to watch very closely, really helped communities get, or even specific groups of people that needed this help, and they would take ages to get the funding from, if it would come from the government or from large organizations. And I think that was a very important thinking, and thank you for that. Really.
No, so it's like if a community needed cameras, for example, or if a unit was looking for food, right? So this is what it is that we would help fund. And the fact that you and Dagan and other shlichim were there and the past shlichim who were in Israel, to be able to identify what we did not see was also essential.
Yeah. That was really showcasing the strength of this alumni of Center for Israel.
Right.
And again,
what we also learned, by the way, and when I was there, I also met with our past shlichim and our past shinshinim, was that they are a community unto themselves. They built a community. So they were also there to support one another. And that was also something I didn't see. It was like, oh, wow.
You didn't thought about it.
No, I did not. No. And of course, you had the host families that host our Shinshinim that were connecting to and said, "What does your family need? How do we?" So that was the dream come true.
So that when you realize how much the Center for Israel really impacted this community, and also the Israelis back in Israel.
Right, but then the Shinshinim that were here, and you and Dagan speaking before hundreds, thousands of people, telling the truth of what was going on. That's the function. That you saw the entire Center for Israel operating in its best case of what it was built for, in my judgment.
Yeah, in unfortunate circumstances, but yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that on that. And I want to go back to the JCC itself. So basically, October 7th, 2023, you're at the head of the organization for 12 years by that time. An organization that the motto is, you belong here. And there is no really, it doesn't matter which religion you're from, which political view you have.
By the way, just so you know, you belong here is the motto of Mid-Island Y. Ours is that we enable life to flourish.
Okay, sorry, maybe.
No. So we're giving Rick Lewis a plug. Just now.
Okay, great. Good to know.
I'm happy to.
But anyway, it's a JCC that really have people from all over, Chinese community, all the wellness center and cancer and wellness center really welcomes everyone. It's not that you need to be Jewish. And I wonder if you had some expectations from people at the JCC. What did you expect that would happen there? Not everyone was Jewish. Not everyone had a connection to Israel to this extent. So what did you expect? And what did happen?
After October 7th?
Yeah.
I expected the JCC to be what it is, a pro-Israel, unabashedly pro-Jewish agency that operates out of the best human values that exist on this earth, period, end stop. That its fidelity was going to be to truth, that it was going to provide facts, and it was going to provide anybody the opportunity to see where they can get information if they want to learn more. That's our function. So we were unabashedly pro-Israel because we understood the facts. And I was prepared for anybody, both in terms of membership as well as in terms of staff, to voice concern or opinions and for us to be able to create dialogues around them.
Did it happen?
At every staff meeting, there was a query or a statement and a request for anybody that has any concern to please bring them. And there, in fact, were lunch and learns for any staff member to come in and to talk about what they were feeling or what they were thinking or to ask questions. There was one incident where there were a couple of members that came in and started to put, I would suggest, pro-Palestinian propaganda on tables, and they were asked to leave. This is not a place for that, but I basically said, you want to have a dialogue, it's perfectly okay to come in, we'll create that dialogue. But you cannot, this is not your living room. It's the community's living room. And it's not a free-for-all where you can just put out whatever it is that you wish.
So it's very interesting that you said that, because in general, as someone that was in the JCC all this time, I really felt the support from everyone. But in fact, what we know today, 2 years after October 7th, a little bit more than 2 years, that it didn't really affect only Israel. It's basically affect very, to a large extent, to the Jewish people of the diaspora. So have you seen it coming?
Have I seen it coming that there was...
Like after October 7th, at the end of the day, it was the largest...
No, I did not see it coming. No, I did not see it coming. But I had inklings. And then we saw the demonstrations, like 2 days afterwards. I mean, horrific demonstrations that were anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. So I didn't expect it, but there it was, and then obviously you fish for information. Is this coordinated? Is this funded? Where is this? Why is this happening?
And why do you think it's happening? Because we're recording this a few days after the horrific attack in Sydney, Australia, where 15 people got murdered in a Hanukkah event. We see a lot of disturbing videos from Manhattan of people getting attacked only because they're Jews. There is some delegitimate of Israel that we've never seen before. So when you look at this, all of these events, do you think this is something new, or maybe this is something that was always there, but it was just, we haven't seen it?
Well, I think that the point that you're missing is that Israel's ability to explain itself has been a disaster for how long have you existed? 75 years?
A little bit more.
A little bit more. I think this has existed from the fringe and the radical element of radical Islamic behavior, but what we didn't see is just how much the Arab street bought it, and how much it infiltrated and infected Western society. Nor did we see how it has infiltrated or infected progressives within Western society. So there is a real problem in both the Israeli and the Jewish ability to put forward the facts and its narrative. And the people that are opposed to us are funded not by millions, but probably billions of dollars. And we're not rising to the occasion. We do not have any sort of, in my understanding, group of mega organizations that are sitting together to say, okay, here's the plan. Here's how we have to combat this together. Here's how this has to filter down to all these communities. Here's how we have to get involved in the political process in a different way than we have in the past. Here's how we have to combat this. So while we have won, essentially, the physical war, and in miraculous ways, when I say we, I'm talking about Israel, we have lost the information war. And it has got to be a priority, both for Israel as well as for the diaspora communities, in my judgment.
So you're saying it's because of the asbara, or like how Israel is communicating whatever that's going on. But you also wrote a letter that you called We Accuse. And I want to read a couple of sentences from this letter. So you're basically saying, we accuse the liberal West of abandoning their values and protections of innocent Jews in order to kowtow Muslims, immigrants who hate their adopted countries. We accuse actors and actresses from Susan Sarandon to Mark Ruffalo. We accuse you for willful ignorance and proliferating Jew hatred. Proliferating, sorry. And we, Jews of the Center, will not cower in 2025. We will not live in fear. So these are very strong words. And you're really accusing in names. You're accusing the press, politicians, actors, governments. I wonder, what was the moment you decided that you need to write it? And what was the straw that break the camel's back?
Well, if truth be told, and I was the sitting executive director of Sid Jacobs and JCC, I don't know that I would have submitted the letter for publication. But I realized that we're living in a world where the algorithms of social media are built in order to enrage us. And we keep going back to it because that's the study of what emotional response is. It's also why we're losing the information war, because our adversaries are using emotional lies in order to build a case, steal a narrative that's not theirs, and vilify the Jewish people in Israel. And I guess I got angry, and I wanted to put the words to paper. And I actually sent it to a couple of rabbis to say, what do you think of this? And what would you do with it? And in their wisdom, they said, listen, I can agree with a lot of what it is that you said, but I don't know that it takes it anyplace. I don't know that it moves the dime anywhere. I don't know that this is helpful per se. And they may be right. It may not be helpful. But I also saw that it was the same principle of going to Israel in November of 23, and just letting Israelis know that they're not alone, that there are people that feel the way they feel, that understand what they're going through, and that know what the facts are. And I think that I actually wrote it and wanted it published in order to comfort people like me that know what the facts are and are not reading them, that feel the way I feel and don't see anybody writing it.
These Jews of the center.
It's presumptuous on my part. You know, there's something called the silent majority. I don't know if it exists in Israel.
It is.
So the silent majority, I felt as if it's more representative of the silent majority. It's presumptuous on my part to say that it's the center, but I believe that it is.
Yeah, so this is exactly what I wanted to ask you. So you do call this silent majority to come and fight, to raise and fight. So that's the critical question. So what every one of us can do, the people who listen to this conversation, what could we do? Jews in America, Israelis in Israel, Jews in Israel, people who care. What can we do? How can we fight that?
Educating yourself is key. So my gurus today one is Dr. Rachel Fish from Boundless, and the second is a gentleman by the name of Adam Lewis Klein from an organization called MAAZ, which is there in order to combat anti-Zionism. Because we're not just dealing with anti-Semitism, we're dealing with anti-Zionism. It's one and the same. And their ability to articulate what is being thrown at us, and also to articulate how we refute it, where we refute it, how we can get more engaged in refuting it, for me that's what I follow. So I'm on social media, I see Hen Mazig, I see, Johnny Daniels, I read what they're writing, so that just gives me some facts and up-to-date information, but these other individuals are actually defining how to get engaged and how to get involved, where it is that you can make a difference, how it is that you make a difference. It's like if you're going to go to X and you're going to start to write a refutation of what somebody says that's anti-Israel, it's a waste of your time. The concept is to just with 2 or 3 words saying that this is a perversion of the truth and then move on. I don't know how many people could get engaged in politics or to support those who are supporting Israel in politics, but now is the time and also to do so. So everybody has their own talent or has their own ability either to support individuals that they know in Israel, either to write a check to those charities that are making a difference, or to provide or to add to the army of individuals that are needed in order to refute lies and misinformation. Do I have it all that I can just share with you? No. But if you go to these agencies, these Boundless with Rachel and Maz with Adam Lewis Klein, already you will see a difference in the information that you need for you to make a difference.
So great. This is a very important, strong message. I want to end with a final question. So David, everyone that knows you, do you know what the one word, if they need to describe you in one word, what would it be? I have a few words, but I think that many people that got to know you along the years, and you can also see it in the video that they filmed for you when you retired from the JCC, it was that you're a visionary. And you can say that you haven't envisioned the Center for Israel the way it is today, or the coalition the way it is today, but at the end of the day, you did have some kind of dream in your mind, maybe you would admit it or not, and it did come true. So on this note, and after what we just talked about, I want to hear from you, what is your vision for the Jewish world in 5 or 10 years or the future? What is your vision for that?
I don't know that this is crystallized, but I think if I was to be truly honest, I would suggest that the future of the Jewish people is in Israel. I would suggest that Jews can have a life in the diaspora, but it will be increasingly difficult to enable that life to flourish. That the security of our people, both in terms of our culture, our future, the miracle of what it is that we can accomplish, is going to be more and more manifested in Israel itself. And I would want every Jew that can connect to the state of Israel, whether that's establishing a presence, whether that is supporting what it can achieve, whether it is simply visiting on a regular basis, that has to become part of the life of every Jew, no matter where they are.
Thank you so much. This is a very strong, clear message, and hopefully that would be our future. So thank you so much, David. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end, but it was a delight to host you for this 3-episode, very interesting conversations. And thank you for tuning into this episode of the Israeli Bond on hmTV. I appreciate so much my guest, David Black, for sharing insights for so many things, from Israel to October 7th and the vision of the Jewish people to come. And if you enjoyed exploring the information, history, and stories of today's conversation, be sure to check out our other podcasts here on hmTV. Please subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations like that was. Until next time, take care and be well.